Book 2. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and this is my second attempt at doing this because I have the same problem I had before where it wouldn't, for some reason, it wouldn't, the video wouldn't record or whatever. So I'm redoing this. Although I know as I started to redo this, I started playing with this a little bit and realized and somehow I finally started noticing all the things I could do on here, all the effects and stuff. I've never tried it before. So I might play with it, play with it a little bit more in the future. So it's almost a new month. May will be here in a couple days, in a day, because tomorrow's the last day of April. And I've been seeing all the videos for the TBRs people are planning. And I really there are times when I really want to do a TBR, but then I remember that how sometimes I just don't, at the same time, I don't like the pressure of feeling obligated to read certain books. And not that anyone's forcing me to, I'm forcing myself. And it's more like I like the idea of a TBR, of creating the TBR. Plus, my other problem is I tend to overdo, and I end up putting way too many books knowing I'm not going to get to them all. And especially when a lot of those books are tomes, 500-page books. And, I'm not going to finish that. And, it depends. Sometimes, Valley of the Dolls, I finished within the whole month of, I think it was February when I read that book. I read the whole thing in the whole month periodically, but it was also very easy to read. And I was very interested in the story. I know some people find that book boring, but I was actually engaged the whole time, wanting to know what was going to happen with these women, if they were ever going to get out of their situation and, do better. But they kept yo-yoing, and every time it seems like they would do better, they would mess up again. So, I'm also someone who watched E! News a lot, and back in the day, and back in the early 2000s, and read People magazine, because my mom, was on their subscription list for years. And, I sometimes get caught up in my mom's talk radio shows about, the reality TV show news and all the updates and stuff. So that's kind of stuff I have a love-hate relationship with. But anyway, so I like the idea. So back to the TBR thing, I like the idea of a TBR and creating a TBR. It's kind of fun creating a list and planning things. And I also like the TBR games people do. Excuse me. And the whole having those TBR, the games where there's an actual kind of story and you have to read certain books to get to a goal. I really like those, the readathons, basically. Those are always, it's the idea of them is so much fun. I'm not good with the follow through of those. I can't remember who it was who used to do this. Well, first it was kind of Harry Potter themed readathon, but then it was she created, you were a student at Hogwarts and everything, but then, all of the J.K. Rowling crap happened, her being very vocal about certain topics. So, this booktuber decided to not do this readathon based on Hogwarts and Harry Potter and stuff, and decided to do and create her own magic school and her own curriculum and all that. But then by that point, I kind of lost interest. And plus, I'm always worried about the books that, that don't apply to the prompts of these types of readathons and these TBRs, but that I want to read. That I want to finally read or make progress on or something. So basically the idea of a TBR is fun, but I'm not really good at being active with it. So but I did want to talk about my plans a little bit. It is my birthday month, and I did watch another booktuber. I don't know her name off the top of her channel name off the top of my head, but her birthday is also in May, in the middle of May. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if it was the same day, actually, or at least around the same day. But yeah, she was talking about how she wants to read books that she's excited about, that she feels like will be 5 stars for her, books that she really wants to read. And I have thought about that, reading books that but of course I always want to read all my books. It's not like I don't want to read any of my books. Of course, not that I'm saying that she doesn't want to read, that she, I'm sure a lot of her books, all her books she wants to read. But I guess she's like particular books that she knows is a guarantee she'll love them. But like, for instance, reading like fantasy books, because that's always been my favorite genres. Maybe I focus on reading fantasy books all month, because I haven't read a lot of fantasy lately. But there are classics, of course, that I still want to read that aren't fantasy. So I'm kind of just gonna focus on not necessarily doing a TBR, but just I'm gonna continue to stick with going with the flow, but kind of have some ideas of books that I want to read. I am almost finished with Faulkner's As I Lay Dying. It would be really awesome if I could get it finished by tomorrow. I mean, like, it's not a super long book. It's very easy read. I mean, I know it's confusing for a lot of people because of the writing style and everything. But actually, in this case, and I think the structure really helps. I'm finding it not that. I mean, there are times where I'm not saying I'm not confused at times, and I was struggling to figure out the relationships that these characters were in. I mean, there was finally a chapter where it kind of explained who were the kids of, Ma and Pa, Addie, and I think the Pa is Anson, Ansay. Does it say? Okay, so it doesn't say, but Anson, I think that's how you say his name. I think he's Paul. And I think the kids are Darl, Jewel, Cash, Dewey, Dell, and Vardaman, I think is one of the kids' names. But something on this that's kind of sad, but also a little funny at times. And I gotta admit, I was surprised by, how a good chunk of the book was them preparing for the journey that the characters take. And I mean a literal journey, not a metaphorical journey, but a literal journey, because the story is basically the family matriarch Addie has just died, and the family is she wanted to be buried in her birthplace, I guess, or where her family used to live before she met Ansay, and so they're trying to get there, but of course it's going to be very difficult and like bad weather and everything, like the bridges you can't cross, stuff like that, and but the first part of it is like the reactions of their neighbors and their thoughts on the situation, and then the kids and each of their perspectives on it. And it's a multi-perspective story. You get every character's point of view, which I actually think is kind of cool, because especially, and it's cool and it works for the story because this is one event. Like, not, it's just this one event is happening in the story. So I think going through all these characters that cross their paths or themselves their perspectives is works for this. Works for the story. But anyway, so I'm really liking it. I actually looked at reviews on Goodreads for this, and I knew this was gonna be a book where you either love it or you hate it, probably. Like, there's just certain classic authors people are gonna have some strong reactions. And there was one review that said one thing that's a pet peeve of mine, which is when talking about a classic like this that's a really challenging read, can be very confusing, doesn't make sense for a lot of people, is like the author comes off as a little pretentious, and it's more like you have to really concentrate on it, and it's just hard to follow and get into, and it's just and they were like, they didn't. The thing that bugs me is when people like that downright hate a book, like a classic like this, and are like, if people have read this, if people tell you they've read it and it's their favorite book, they're lying. And that just irks me so much when people say, "Oh, they're lying if they've said they read this." And I know, and this is I think people also feel that way about James Joyce's Ulysses. And yeah, that is a hard read, because it's very like, he gets very creative with and pen happy with all the different writing styles. Sometimes it sounds like nonsense, or it's and it's like, you don't know if there are people that absolutely love and think it's the best book and actually have read it. You don't know that. You just assume that people would be lying because you can't, because you're struggling with it. And that's fine, I mean, like, it is, I acknowledge it's a hard, confusing read, just as I still haven't, every time I pick up Ulysses, it's still very much a struggle for me. And it's very confusing, and it's very hard to read, and I'm not saying it's not, and I'm not saying that you're, and I'm not saying people aren't smart enough, but to assume that there aren't people who haven't read it and understood it and gone into it and really loved it, and, like I said, understand the book and know exactly what's going on in the book, that doesn't, to assume there aren't people like that love this book and genuinely love it and aren't just lying, assuming that those people are lying it's ridiculous. And it's judgmental. And of course, she has this attitude, I think it was a woman, sorry, not sorry, in the review. And now I don't know how old that review is, but I'm one of the apparently rare people who is kind of in the middle about the book, where it's like, so far, there are parts where I'm confused, and I still, like I said, I didn't know who was, Addie's kids and Anson's kids. And there are some conversations that they had, or some thoughts from these characters that's very, okay, I don't know what's going on. But this was written a long time ago, and way before the internet and social media, way before, they might have had TV and radio back then when this came out, but that doesn't mean that people had a lot of options. And yeah, maybe there was movies too, but you didn't go to the movies every day. You couldn't watch a movie every day. They didn't have TV shows. So this was the main form of entertainment, reading a book. So people had the time to really try to understand a book like this. This is what they did. So I think people had more time to understand something like this, get into a book like this, and to take the time with it. But yeah, so that is, but I also don't like it when people just, when you have read something like this and it's your all-time favorite book, and you just get all snobby about it and just think, oh, I'm so smart, I'm so superior, and you just don't understand, and like I'm not saying, when I, there's a difference between saying, well, you just don't get it, and saying, to me at least, to me they're not the same thing when I say that, don't assume that there aren't people that do love this book and get it and like really enjoy it and appreciate it and think it's a great book and understand it. I'm not saying that, oh, you just don't get it. I mean, as in, it's just there are people that feel differently. Reading is subjective. Just, classics, they're not above criticism. They're not above critique. They're not above reproach, as I always say. But it also doesn't mean that if you don't like it and if you hate it, that there aren't people that do like it and that they do get into it and understand it and appreciate it. But it doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean they're a genius. It just means, there's some people, books are subjective. I mean, I think because, see, that's the thing. That's the problem with classics. When they have the classics label, all of a sudden people have these strong opinions about it. Like, either they're, they say it's the best book ever, it's so superior. If I read it, I'm so smart. I'm a superior reader. Or they have the people that are just so annoyed that they have to read these kinds of books, or they're annoyed with people like that on the opposite end who think they're so a superior reader that they automatically hate on the book and think it's terrible because. And of course, like, if these authors are getting creative with their writing and you can't get into it or understand it because of that creativity, it's like, it's not meant to make you feel. I don't think that they mean to. I don't think they mean to make readers feel stupid. I think they're just having fun. And if you don't get it, and if you, I can use a better word than get it, because then I sound like those people are like, well, you just don't understand. Those snobby people that have their nose in the air. So I don't mean that, oh, you just don't get it. I mean, as in, that you literally, struggle with trying to understand it. And it doesn't mean that you're not getting the message. And sometimes maybe it means that you do get the message, but it's just not a message for you. And I'm really struggling with explaining this without sounding like a snob myself, because I don't mean it in a snobby way. I just don't, Well, anyway, sorry this turned into a rant. This is supposed to be a video about my TBR plans. So this, I mean, I'm pretty close to finishing, so I think I could potentially finish this by tomorrow. And it will be my last book of April, and I'll do my wrap up next week. Next week. Probably during the weekend, because I wasn't scheduled to work today, but my coworker needed someone to switch with. So, and he switched with me before, so when I'm the person who needed to switch. So he asked me and I said I could do it and everything. So I'm working tomorrow. But I'm not, but I just realized that means I'm off this coming weekend for, the whole weekend actually, which is really nice. So, I got an extra day. But anyway, so hopefully this will not be part of my TBR, which if it is, it's just probably going to only be a day into May that I'm going to be finishing this. So I don't know. I have some books here that I pulled off my shelf that these might not be the books these might be the books I'll read. I might have more books I'll read or different books I'm going to read. But here's some of the books that I'm thinking. I mean, one of them I didn't grab first is Wall of Storms. I do want to continue that one. And that could be also, it is Asian in Pacific Islander Heritage Month in May, which is kind of cool that, I am Asian in, 24% Asian, so I think it's kind of cool that my birthday month is actually kind of also is the month for my heritage. But yeah, Wall of Storms, I'm gonna end Illustrato. I used to know how to say it. I could say it before. Actually, a memoir in my book, in the Monsoon Mansion, the memoir by Sanel Barnes. It actually refers to Illustrado. It references this word that I'm trying to say. and it kind of does that how you say it, how you pronounce it. She showed it in the book. But now I don't remember. I'm getting tongue tied. But Illustrado. I'm probably gonna pick up that one too, sometime in May. But Wall of Storms is also another one. I forgot to grab those. So I forgot to grab those two books, but I want to read that one, those two. And I did think about reading the Pillow Book, picking up the Pillow Book again. Which that one is kind of like, and like I said before, it's very much like Tale of Genji, except for it's from a woman's perspective. So it's gonna be less womanizing in a man talking. I mean, there might still be womanizing in there, but the main character is not flirting with all these, it's more, I'm hoping it'll be more like about the political stuff, or at least the daily life, but not this person constantly flirting and trying to seduce someone with poetry all the time. So I might pick up that one, but I might pick up that one too. Oh, some of the other books. First, you guys know that I recently hauled this book, the Ramayana, a modern prose version of the Indian epic. So it's a shorter version of the Indian epic. And I was very excited that this is the same story that Sarah Crew tells in A Little Princess. She tells her friends at the school. That I got really excited to hear that this is the actual story. Like, I didn't put two and two together when I first caught wind of this book, of this epic. It was actually, I got wind of it when I found a retelling of it at Givens, and so you guys have probably saw it at one point, and I've kind of always been interested in Indian mythology and India and that, and the country and its culture, and I really like their food, by the way, too, and so I saw that book, bought it, and then realized it's a retelling, and I was thinking at some point I would like to look for the original Indian epic. Now, I did hear, because this, of course, is a shortened version, it was pointed out in one of the reviews I read on Goodreads that it's not, it's probably not the best version of the original story, and if you want to get the original version, like, I don't know I don't remember if there was any references to physical books that contained it, but I know that this person, mentioned the Gutenberg Project on the internet that you can read, where you can get the whole thing. But I kind of want like a physical book. I don't want to be reading it on a screen. So I'll start with this one, and then I'll do that retelling, and maybe at some point I'll look at that on the Project Gutenberg. I'll look at that one, or I'll try to find it. But yeah, so I do want to read this one, and it would apply to because I think India's East Asian. So this is when I might pick up this month too. And then maybe I'll read that retelling, which is longer, actually. Read that retelling as well. Like, maybe read that this summer. Because I remember, because of it's a very hot country, I think of it as books about India, like, relating it to the summer. Because for us, summer is a hot time of year. So, which is, I know it's a weird connection, but anyway, so read that. And then, I'm thinking about reading this I don't know if I'm going to read this in May, or maybe read this in June. But because of the fact that it takes place on an island, these people are going to this island and weird things happen to them. Like the apocalypse that just happened, according to the back description. And it's set in the 80s, so, but I guess an alternate 1986. But to say 1985, but no, that's a totally different story. But I mean, I might just go ahead and bring it out. I'll see how I feel throughout this month. But I did a Google how to pronounce this. Finally got it. Galapagos Islands. As you guys know, last time I did my update video, I was struggling and getting tongue-tied trying to pronounce this. But Galapagos. So I might read this one. So with Kurt Vonnegut, I'm probably gonna wait before I read Slaughterhouse-5. And I'm thinking, when I was last at BAM, I almost grabbed Bluebeard as an option for one of the books I wanted to buy. But of course, with Books A Million, I'm narrowing it down to one book. So I almost grabbed Bluebeard. And that might be my next one. I mean, if I see any at Givens next time I go, if I go there before I go to BAM, I might, if I see a Kurt Vonnegut, I might buy it. And if it's Slaughterhouse-5, that's fine. I'll get it. But I would rather, ideally, I want to try to wait before I read Slaughterhouse-5. I mean, I could, always do the whole... I'm sorry, there's a bug in my room. I do not know how it got here. But yeah, so this, I don't know if I'll read this. It like flew right in my face. So I don't know if I'll read this in May or June. We'll see. Also, I am listening to I'm almost done with my audiobook, Odd Thomas. And I did decide that I'm not going to read the next Odd Thomas book. After this one, I put on hold an Agatha Christie book. I can't remember what it's called. Something. It's the one with Evans, with Evans in the title. Like something about Evans, or like referring to a character named Evans. But I remember, I think Katie from Books and Things talked about that book. I think that's who it was who talked about that book. Like she did a review of it or something, or talking about how much she enjoyed it. But I was reminded of Agatha Christie, and I did like her, and I've read a couple of her books from the library, and I went through an Agatha Christie phase. Probably around the time that the Murder on the Orient Express came out, or was coming out. But I was reminded again of how I liked her, and was pointing out how listening to her on audiobook is kind of a great way to read her books. From Katie in Books and Things, her and her husband, I think he's her husband, they were doing a kind of a readathon, or reading, during the month, we're reading all of her books. Or they were doing an Agatha Christie reading project this year. And they just did their most recent update on it. So I was kind of inspired to see if my Libby app has any for books. So I decided to put the one book whose name I don't remember, put on hold at the library, which that means I need to hold off on getting the next Odd Thomas book, because it might be the same amount of time, and I don't want to be listening to two books at the same time, especially if they're due back, they have the same amount of time to return. But anyway, okay, so also, this is my most recent purchase from, not my most recent purchase, I don't know what my most recent purchase from BAM was. I don't remember at the moment. But, it's Dragonfall. That was the last book I purchased from them. But this was the book I purchased. You guys know that I purchased this book before my previous visit to BAM. The Book of Love by Kelly Link. I had read a little bit of her work before, her shorter works, her short stories, some of her short story collections. But I never did finish because I'm very picky about short stories. And I would like to try it again, but for now, I would like to try this work by her, which is a full-length novel. And like the premise sounded really cool. It's like a bunch of teenagers, they disappeared and supposedly they died, but then they come back to life, and the only person that can help them is a teacher, an agmatic teacher that they had. That this teacher might know what happened to them, but the teacher says that if you want to find out what happened to you, you have to fulfill these tasks. It's one of those stories, which also kind of has sounds like a little bit of a fairy tale almost. But it just sounds so cool, like a cool premise. And I'm often caught between reading something that I recently purchased and trying to and then reading some books that I've had for a long time, and I need to finally pick up, or at least read a chapter just to see if I like it. But this just sounded really cool, and it's also a long book, so I might pick up this as another one. And like I said, it's my birthday month, so you should just pick up, whatever I'm excited about to read in that moment. And this is one of the ones I'm excited to read. I'm actually, okay, last time I filmed this, I forgot to mention this. Last time I attempted to film this video, I forgot to mention this book, but I did start reading The Rose Labyrinth by Christy Phillips. I've been reading that one before I fall asleep. Unfortunately, that means I don't get very far in the book. But lately I've been thinking about, I want to read books that have kind of the mystery feel, like kind of Da Vinci Code vibes, Angels and Demons vibes. And the book The Dark Music, I don't remember what the author's name is, but the book The Dark Music was another one that kind of had that, but it was kind of a little too weird for me and went into some strange directions. But I liked the idea and the premise, mostly except for one aspect of it I felt was a little too weird and strange even for me. But that's another one that is kind of like that. Like, you guys know that I like stories where something about the past is discovered, and someone has to piece it together. Not detective stories, but stories where an average regular person finds it and kind of plays detective. Like those kinds of stories. Not where there's an actual detective, a hard-nosed detective or anything, but just someone who plays detective and pieces everything together and all that, and just whether they're related to the people or not. And also multi-timeline, so like where you can compare the modern day storyline, the person tried to figure it all out, and the past storyline where the actual event happened. That's what I love about Kate Morton. That's basically what she does. In this book, kind of, the Rose Labyrinth seems to do that. Also, the Rossetti Letters seems to have that premise too. And I also got, that was one of the books I have thought about picking up, but I wanted to read the Rose Labyrinth first. But that one, I was reminded of that one, and I recently purchased that one because I was watching, I cannot remember her name, but there was another, hey, I feel so embarrassed I can't remember these people's channel names or their actual names, because I would like to mention them to you guys, but in respect, to honor them, and, by saying their names, their channel names, but I don't remember. But I'm also reading that one as well. Okay, I already mentioned these. Okay, I don't know when I'll get back to Our Mutual Friend. I'm gonna be reading that one on and off, and the same thing with the recognitions as well. I like to read both of those, but those are kind of like on and off reads. They're both super long books, so we will see. Like I said, these are all just kind of ideas. Like I said, there might be other books on my shelf that I might read. And what I mean, what I might do is just scan my shelves and, see if there's anything I'm more interested in reading. There's also the Over story by Richard Powers, which I feel like is very much both a spring and autumnal read, because the forest setting and being a book about trees and the importance of the environment, particularly trees and respecting them. And I actually watched, a movie from the 90s called Ferngully. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with it. It's a movie about fairies. Like, this human who's part of a crew of, guys gets, they're cutting down trees. He gets shrunk to the size of a fae and a fairy. And he learns about the importance of the environment, how to respect Mother Earth and the trees, and how important it is to have trees, because it gives you breath, it gives you air, it gives you life, and he begins to appreciate more. And I just watched that last night. But it basically is exploring the same themes that I'm assuming this book will explore. But this is one of the ones I've been wanting to pick up. I've read a little bit of it, not a lot. I mean, I might end up just starting over. But I was thinking this was a great spring read, so I might pick up this one. But I mean, this is about, let's see how many pages. It's just, it's 502, so right at the cusp of the 500 pages. So this is one of the ones that I might read as well. And this is probably one I'm definitely going to read, and that is the fourth book in the Wheel Type series, The Shadow Rising. You guys, I keep saying I'm going to pick it up, but I never do, and then finally I did. So this one I'm definitely reading, and I don't know which of my fantasy books I'll read next. I mean, like I said, I am leaning towards also reading Wall of Storms as well. I mean, it's only 4 books. This is like 15, 14, 15 if you count the prequel book that came out a few years ago, but 14 not counting the prequel book. While you have Wall of Storms is the second book in a series of 4 books. And then there's all these trilogies I want to read as well. And as I keep saying, I have no excuse for those, because there's only 3 books. They're only 3 books long. And I need to read, I want to read those and finish at least 2 more trilogies would be nice. Like, I don't expect to finish The Wheel of Time by the end of the year, but I want to make some progress and read, like, at least 2 books from that series. 3 would be great, but if I can read at least 2 books from that series, then that'd be awesome. But, I want to pick up this one. I mean, I want to keep going with this one, because, I mean, I've already started it, so I'm on page 154, so. This one I'm definitely going to read. I don't know what I'll read after that, though. Other than Wall of Storms, that's another possibility. But also, there's Storm of Swords, and I did not read that one, so it wouldn't be like a reread. And then there's, Words of Radiance. I'm trying to think of the other big series that, Wizard and Glass. I need to get, that's book 4 in the Dark Tower series. I want to get to that one as well. I mean, there are so many series, so I will have to, pick and choose. Like I said, I want to read 2 Wheel of Time books, and I don't know what I'm going to do next after that. And like I said, I think I want to try to read the whole series of the Dandelion Dynasty by the end of this year. Which, if I do, then maybe I don't, that would be a plus. But, yes, I want to read, this, I'm definitely going to read this month. So, those 2. Okay, alright. And then, here's 3 more. Okay, so I have been meaning to get to this, But I have to pick and choose when I read it, because I want to read it when I can concentrate and there's no distractions like the radio, other people talking, where it's just quiet and I can really think about what I'm reading. And I want to be comfortable when I'm reading this. But this is the end of this plays, and I don't really know a lot about this. I mean, there's that weird thing about him supposedly falling in love with his mother, and it's not really his mother, and so the whole Oedipus complex thing that people talk about. Although Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts explains it's not really that. That's not really what happened. I guess it's it's probably one of those stories where it gets misinterpreted and in a lot. And this was one of those ones where I'm like, one of those things where I talk about reading more ancient literature, and some of my other ones where one time I'm reading more about the American Revolution and reading more Shakespeare and reading more Filipino literature and all those projects, and reading Tolkien in my Tolkien project, those get done. But this is one of the ones that I have not made any progress. So I want to finally read some ancient literature. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. I have made I have read the Odyssey. And really enjoyed that. But other than that, I think the Odyssey is the only thing I've read from the ancient literature. So yeah, I need to finally read some more ancient literature. And I'm gonna start with this. And it's a play, it shouldn't be too hard. But yeah, this is one I probably want to get to in May. But I won't have to be very selective when I read it. Now, this one, I don't know if I'll continue. I mean, I'm going to keep reading it, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to continue it in May. But The Princess of Ireland. But I want to keep going with it, because I do like it. But I gotta admit, I also agree with some of those reviewers who, one of their criticisms was they didn't like how you would start one generation, and then all of a sudden, you would jump to the next generation, and you wouldn't find out what happened to the previous one. You get into what's going on with the current generation, and then all of a sudden, it's a new group of characters. Christianity comes to Ireland, St. Patrick shows up and comes to claim Deidre's son. It's he wants him to be one of them, and he wants to convert the family. And they go, and we all know what's going to happen with them, because the next chapter is focused on a different generation of family members. So it's a little annoying. It's okay, I want to know what happened with the previous characters, how things turned out for them. Where are they now? What happened? I mean, they're obviously probably dead now, but what happened to them at that time? I want to know that, and it doesn't. I don't know if we're going to find that out. Or, I mean, maybe we'll find out through the other characters. But, yeah, so it's kind of annoying. I don't like that. But other than that, I'm still enjoying it. Still having a good time learning about Ireland a little bit, through fiction and its history. And I want to read the author's, I want to give his other book, Paris, another shot. Because at the time I was not prepared for a book that's that long. But I did like it at the time. It's just, it was so long, and, of course it's not super action-packed. These are very slow reads. I mean, it encompasses a whole environment or a whole family. But, so I want to try that one again at some point. If I ever see it. For now, I'm going to continue with this, and like I said, I don't know if I will continue with this, and I do want to read the Bee Sting, which also takes place in Ireland, so it's about an Irish family, so I want to read that one too, so I don't know if I will read this one first, keep going with this, and then read that one at some point, but part of me kind of wants to read it sooner, read it now, and not that I have to. I don't have to wait until I finish, because they're not connected at all, except for that they're both have Irish settings. But yeah, I was thinking, oh, this is, Irish history, but I don't know. We will see. I also kind of like to look for a paperback copy of the Bee Sting because I have a hardback version of it. So the last book I have here that I want to read is Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. Um, Again, another one that I started reading. This was one of the books I got from London. Um, but this just, for some reason, this feels like a spring book to me. I don't know why. Which, I mean, I probably already talked about it once before. But I want to read this one. I want to start reading this one. And get to know Becky Sharp and see what crazy shit she gets into and what sinisterness unfolds with her. So this is one of the classics I want to pick up. I'm gonna start reading this summer. Or starting in May. I probably won't get this done before the end of the month unless I narrow these down or end up with completely different books. But I definitely want to. This is one of the ones I'm gonna start reading in May as well. So these are the kind of books I'm thinking. These are the ones I'm thinking about right now. I mean, they might not be the ones I end up reading. I mean, what I would like to do once I'm done with this is to, look at my shelves and, I mean, I wish I could just pick 3 or 4 books. I mean, that's really what I need to do is focus on 3 or 4 books and then that's it. And then if I read any more, I will. And I am, like I said, I'm still listening to Odd Thomas. And after Odd Thomas, I might get that Agatha Christie book. I don't know if it will come in or not. I mean, maybe. I mean, although it'll probably be a situation like with this one where it comes at the end of the month. But anyway, so that's my potential TBR reads or books I'm thinking about reading. Do you guys make TBRs? Do you have any particular books on your TBR? Or are you like me and you just, like, even though the idea of a TBR is fun, you can't follow through with it, or you just don't like the pressure of feeling like you have to read certain books, like the pressure you put on yourself, I should say. Feel free to share in the comments below. And I hope you are enjoying your reading, and I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye!